episode of You Don't Know. You don't know, huh? So please, for the sake of decency, don't act like you do. I'm going to play a little tune I was working on last night. This is not it. My new song, my new EDM song. You don't know, huh? Thank you for joining me for another exciting episode of You Don't Know. There's several core topics we discuss here on You Don't Know on the show. And one of the foremost topics we have is the subject of the elongated skulls, sometimes called Homo Capesis. In England they call them the long skulls. And cone heads, that's another word for them. I've got a colorful name for them, big-headed motherfuckers. As you can see in this clip right here, taken in Peru. Okay. Anyway, I went down there with my two henchmen, Danny Hake and Serious Alchemy, cameraman and driver. And we flew into Lima, Peru, which is quite a cosmopolitan city. It's a big city. It's one of the world's biggest cities, and it's very modern in every way, in contrast to the rest of the country of Peru, which is very rural and somewhat archaic in many respects. The Catholic Church has a vice grip on Peru, like many South American countries. And so, as usual, I was on the lookout for the signs and symbols of the pharaonic dominators. And as many of you know, I am on the bloodlines of the pharaonic dominators. Well, what are the symbols and signs of the pharaonic dominators? Well, the few main ones that come to mind would be the obelisk, like the Egyptian obelisk in South America called obelisca. There's also the spheres, or the globes, like what you see in your classroom, right? The globe, theory of the world. There's the chevron. Chevron, imagine a military man's uniform. It's a little kind of like pointed arrows. They can either go up or down. That's a chevron. So we get the word Chevrolet, Chevelle, chevron, all having to do with this aerodynamic shape. Let's see, what else? The fleur-de-lis, like from the New Orleans slaves. That's another one of our symbols that can be morphed into a bee or a three-toed, duck foot, much like the gang sign that has been adopted by these black gangs in on the West Coast, I believe. California Dreaming, shit like that, And Pan. Iao Pan, the cloven-hoofed, horned deity, who has the upper body of a man, and then he turns into a goat with a cloven hoof down below, and he's famous for seducing nymphs and also human females with his little flute. Very big deity for the pharaonic dominators. Also the number 8 as in a stop sign. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The balustrades are, on a fort. The towers that come up where they, shoot the bows and arrows from, or in later times used muskets and stuff. A lot of times these were eight-sided, just like a stop sign. The number 8, which is, of course is an infinity symbol. One of the favorite symbols of the Pharaonic dominators. So as I mentioned, the Catholic Church has a very strong presence in Peru, but the people also cleave to their indigenous ways, which are thousands and thousands of years old. And among these Indian traditions is the taking by shamans of ayahuasca. Ayahuasca, the plant that, in a combination with another plant, gives this natural DMT, dimethyltryptamine, that you hear so much about these days, people having these out-of-body, out-of-world experiences. While we were down there, I chose to be involved in an ayahuasca ritual. And this is with an actual shaman in the jungle. And, many people go down there to Peru, celebrities and hotshots and stuff like that, wanting to participate in the ayahuasca rituals. And they go to some big fancy place where they spend thousands of dollars, and they're working under a shaman named Joseph Smith from Minneapolis, Minnesota, or something like that, And I'm not disparaging that, but if I'm going to go down to the Amazon to do an ayahuasca ritual with the shaman, I want one with brown skin. All right, call me prejudiced, whatever you want. I don't want somebody with just not even one drop of white blood in them. I want the true experience, and we found that man in the city of Puerto Maldonado. And that city is surrounded by jungle. The jungle penetrates the city. I mean, we're talking about the Amazon jungle. The river that goes through Puerto Maldonado is the Madre de Dios. It's the Mother of God, is this river. And so this is a river that feeds the Amazon River. So it's a very large and powerful river, and very sacred to the locals and everyone, all the indigenous peoples in the area. And this is where the ayahuasca actually grows. A lot of the ayahuasca rituals take place up in northern Peru, and the ayahuasca has to be shipped up there or taken up there by couriers, because except in a few places, the ayahuasca doesn't naturally grow up in the more colder climate. But it goes right down there in the jungle, and there's another thing that grows down there. Coca, the coca leaf. And in Puerto Maldonado is a major place for manufacturing this, what they call pasta. And this is not like pasta like you'd find in an Italian restaurant. This is the pasta, this is the cocaine base. And according to statistics, Peru supplies 93% of the world's cocaine. And I actually suspect a lot of that is just the pasta, which is then shipped to Colombia or elsewhere, maybe Ecuador, and then the final process to turn it into the cocaine. I don't know. But when I did go through the ghetto there in Puerto Maldonado, the way you get around in Puerto Maldonado is in these taxi cabs. This is a 3-wheeled vehicle. It's kind of like a big motorcycle, but it has 2 wheels in back and 1 wheel in front. And it's just it's thrilling, okay? It's not safe, all right? I mean, you can get thrown out of that thing, having a wreck with another, tri-car or whatever they are. But there's not too many trucks or cars around, so, it's not very likely you'll get run over by an 18-wheeler. There would be nothing left of you. But to get to the shaman's place, this guy's not in the phone book. My cab driver did take me through the ghetto, and they were cooking this pasta out there in the open in big metal kind of saucer-like things, and the cab driver, held his nose like, "You smell that?" I said, yeah, what's that? And it's the pasta, so they're basically cooking cocaine right out there in the open, even though it is illegal, and I'm sure that they just have some deals with the local authorities. That being said, there's many checkpoints coming out of Puerto Maldonado because they don't want, the people, their version of cartels or whatever, transporting the stuff. And so there would be checkpoints with a lot of soldiers with submachine guns and stuff, pulling people over, searching their vehicles and such. And that never happened to us, not even once. Because as soon as they saw that we were gringos, They passed us through. The gringos go through, you know, touristas, right, or researchers, whatever. And I guess we don't fit the, you know, we're covered up with tattoos, and I had long hair down to here, you know, but apparently we don't fit the profile of the cocaine smuggler in Peru, which I'm not really surprised. So we went down there primarily to not only look at megalithic ruins, be involved in the ayahuasca ritual, among other things, but primarily to investigate the elongated skulls of Peru. The elongated skulls of Peru, what are they? Inquiring minds want to know. The elongated skulls are something that I've been fascinated with since I was a child. Literally looking at these elongated skulls on TV programs and in magazines and such. And there's many facts to look at. Why do you have to go to Peru to see the elongated skulls? Well, they're there. They're there in great number, and that's because in the Paracas region, and we stayed in Paracas, Peru, 2 different times while we were there, on the way in and on the way out. And another name for the elongated skulls people is the Paracas People. And these were people that lived there in Paracas close to maybe 2,000 years ago. And because of it's on the seashore, it's next to the ocean, but it also has a very arid climate. It's very dry, desert-like, especially once you get a little ways inland. And because of this, the moisture is not readily available, and so the ecosphere tends to create mummies just by natural means. In other words, they dry out and they're preserved very well. But there is some mummification processes they have that are not as advanced as the Egyptians. But this is where you get these so-called mumias, which is Spanish for mummy. In particular, the world's most famous elongated skull is skull number 176. You know it's skull number 176 because on the side of the skull, written in a magic marker, probably from the 1940s or 1950s, it says number 176. So there's no mistaking it. And there's some other writing on it with a red pen and some other stuff. And then right across the forehead, in big letters with the magic marker, is written the word Chongo, with quotation marks, Chongo. Chongo is a Spanish word which means monkey. So I can only assume that this is a derogatory term that was put on these peoples by mainstream archaeologists, I guess 60 or 70 years ago. And I'm just hazarding a guess. It just so happens the cemetery where a lot of these skulls are found, or near there, is called the Chongo Cemetery. So it's, you know, I don't know if it's a derogatory term or what, you know, I feel like it is, and I just don't know. But everyone knows about the world famous Nazca lines. They have these animals, you know, painted in the dirt. There's a certain type of arid type of dirt where once it's carved or whatever, it stays that way just basically forever. And so there are many images that you can only see from an airplane. We did not go up in an airplane, but they have these observation towers that you can go and pay $2 and walk up like, you know, 6 or 7 stories on a big tower. It's not even a building, it's just like a tower, and look down on the pictograms. And it's very striking. And so here's some pictures right here of us looking at the Nazca lines in Peru, which is fairly near Paracas. Interestingly enough, the Nazca lines, it's probably a misnomer, because I've never heard this, but I feel like that the Nazca lines were made by the Paracas people, not the Nazca people, who the Nazca lines are named after. I feel like the Paracas people made the Nazca lines, and they should be called the Paracas lines. Of course, you know, they're not going to rewrite history. And the Nazca people themselves surely didn't care whether these things were named after them or not. The Nazca people were people. They were human beings, like you and I. And the Paracas people were, I would call them people as well, but they're not human. saying they're aliens or ETs. I have no reason to think that any of the elongated skull people were ever up in a UFO or any type of flying craft of any type. I don't have any reason to believe that. They have simple basket weaving and stuff like this, you know, rudimentary, you know, clothes and, you know, relatively high culture. One thing though that is interesting is they are associated with these megalithic ruins. And the megalithic ruins, say like at Saskatchewan and, not Pumapunka, but, well, I'll think of it here in a minute, the famous one that everyone goes to, is just one of the most, some of the most striking ruins in the entire world. The stones are much, much bigger than the stones that are built with the Egyptian pyramid. Much bigger. Some of the stones are as big or bigger than this room that I'm sitting in right now. And so how do you carve a stone like that, much less move it? It's a very big mystery. And there's legends, and they're now thinking, some people are thinking that these are not carved stones, but they're actually somehow some type of poured concrete. But it's done with some kind of process that's unknown to man at this time, unknown to this very day. And this, of course, is how the legends say, some of the legends say that they were made, and but Western archaeology, which is a rude science, barely even deserves the name science because it's just all filled up with cover-ups. You know, we don't do the pointing of the finger too much here at you don't know, buck the system or anything like that, but let me tell you, archaeology is a fucking joke, all right? The university system, there's lots of truths, I mean lots of untruths and lots of disinformation there. But let me tell you, if you go to the chemistry department, you get a chemistry degree, you're going to know how to blow something up. You know, you're going to find out how to make some salts or do some type of chemistry shit, because that shit's got to work. You know, you got to make modern day plastics, and you know, these people got to go to work and get something done. Archaeology, on the other hand, is 100% bullshit. It's a fucking lie from beginning to end, and that's not an accident, it's by design. By design. And another big aspect of this that plays into it is the Paracas people, the elongated skulls. Why do you have to go to Peru to see elongated skulls? We're now finding out that elongated skulls exist all over the world, right even here in Texas. That's right. Dallas, Texas. We are discovering, and especially based on some of the findings that Josh Reed has made, Dallas, Texas is likely the oldest city on the face of the earth. At approximately 465,000 years old. Dallas, Texas. Or a suburb of Dallas, which they now call ROCKWALL. ROCKWALL, Texas. Why is ROCKWALL, Texas called ROCKWALL, Texas? Well, there's a good question, and with a simple answer, and I'm glad you asked. It's because there's a fucking rock wall there, huh? A big damn rock wall made of highly advanced materials. Highly advanced materials that literally cannot even be duplicated today. So, hey, let's just jump in a car and go down there and investigate the rock wall at ROCKWALL, Texas. Hold on, partner. Hold on. All right? You ain't going to be investigating no rock wall in ROCKWALL, Texas. The main reason being is that the rock wall, which is a big, almost circular type edifice, in different areas, depending on where you are, is 70 to 100 feet below the surface of the earth. And that's how they know from geological figurines and formulas and stuff like that, that when the last time that this thing was above the earth was pre-flood, it was pre-diluvian, and it was approximately about 465,000 years ago. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, huh? Many strange things about the rock wall, and yes, the elongated skulls people have been discovered around ROCKWALL. So they are an ancient people, supposedly extinct, you know, depending on who you ask. They're not recognized by mainstream science. Mainstream archaeology will tell you that all instances of elongated skulls are due to indigenous customs, which we call cradle boarding. Cradle boarding is like attaching an infant like in a crib and binding their head to the back of a crib, which has a hard surface. It's made out of wood, and as we know, an infant's skull is somewhat malleable, and so by putting a certain amount of pressure over a certain amount of time, it will make the child's skull grow longer and more conical. And when you go into the museums or the museos, or especially the government operated ones in Peru, like the one we went to in Ica, Peru, ICA, not Inca, I-N-C-A, but Ica, I-C-A, which is the kind of like the state capital of where, you know, Nazca, Ica, and Paracas are. You know, they have a, I'm going to tell you about the skulls here in a moment, but they have a big display with murals on the wall and everything depicting this cradle boarding, explaining to you as a visitor, tourist, researcher, whatever, how these skulls came about through cradle boarding, which is absolutely 100% fucking bullshit. It's a lie! Alright? It's fucking bullshit. And I'm going to explain that to you and give all the reasons why it's fucking bullshit. That is the excuse that mainstream archaeology gives, though, for elongated skulls. Cradle boarding, right? Yeah, fucking cradle boarding. So what it really is, in my estimation, is if you want to see the elongated skulls in a setting that's legal and you don't have to bribe anyone, or you're not looking around your shoulder for the cops or something like that, you go to Peru. Peru is the place you go to see the elongated skulls. And they're shown in public, and they've got this fake information that goes with it so that you can, believe what you want, but that the government line is, and the official story is that yes, these were all people who had been regular people like you and me, human beings, that had been, subjected to this cradle boarding, which is not true. Another quasi-scientific name for the Paracas people is Homo Capesis, which is basically Latin for big head. And a fond name that I have for the Paracas people is the big-headed motherfuckers. It's a very scientific name that I've given them. Coneheads, just like on Saturday Night Live. Yeah, where do you think they got that idea from, huh? Coneheads, that's another name for them. In England, they call them the long skulls, like Edwin Longshanks, the long skulls. And that being said, one of the world's top researchers, an amazingly beautiful woman, Maria Wheatley, who's brilliant lady, and she has done much to try to preserve these sacred sites in England, including Stonehenge and many other henges. And in doing so, she has run across she has basically discovered the long skulls in England, and she's one of the world's foremost experts, and she's written several books on this. I'd love to meet Maria Wheatley. Now also Brian Forrester, Brian Forrester. He's an American. His name is spelled like Brian, B-R-I-E-N, but it's pronounced Brian Forrester, F-O-E-R-S-T-E-R. He's an American expatriate living in Peru, living in Paracas, as a matter of fact. In Paracas, they have the Jose Navarro Museo, which is a private museum where many people go to see the elongated skulls. They have 47 examples of the elongated skulls there at the museum. We flew halfway across the world to go see these things. We're staying at Cocopelli, which is a hostel or a backpack